Adam Schiff, because he created 3 years of a massive fallacy that did so much damage to this country and made us miss probably one of the most important stories of our lifetime. We were having hearings on impeachment while the coronavirus was exploding.
Greg Gutfeld just unleashed a roast on Adam Schiff so sharp, it practically carved itself into the congressional record. With wit like a scalpel and a smirk that practically echoed through the screen, Gutfeld dismantled Schiff's flair for drama like a late-night comic with a front-row seat to political theater. From Schiff's flair for apocalyptic predictions to his endless thirst for spotlight moments that would make even soap opera stars blush, Gutfeld held nothing back. It wasn't just a takedown, it was a full-blown comedic demolition. Zero filter, zero forgiveness, just unrelenting satire that left the chamber and the internet howling.
Pop their dentures when Schiff finally gets censored. And so the House condemns the lies of the man with the zombie eyes. Last night, the House voted on party lines to censure Adam Schiff for promoting the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, which was as believable as Brian Kilmeade getting fan mail. 2 for 2. Schiff becomes only the 26th member ever to be censured, but to his credit, he's still the only member to have a 12-inch neck.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell icon, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, Greg Gutfeld didn't need flashy effects, a dramatic monologue, or even a script to roast Adam Schiff. All it took was Schiff's expressions, his voice, and a camera rolling, because let's be honest, the man practically served up the comedy himself every time he spoke. Gutfeld treated him like the overly dramatic character in a never-ending political sitcom. Someone who thought he was delivering Shakespeare, but came off more like a badly written soap villain. And Greg? He was the guy in the back row, arms crossed, tossing popcorn and laughing at every plot twist.
And the irony is superb. He went crying to mommy on an app run by Chinese commies. Congressman Adam Schiff announced this morning he's running for U.S. Senate in California, which is guaranteed to boost U-Haul rentals headed for Texas. He unveiled the highly polished and produced political ad right on the heels of getting booted from the House Intel Committee. Coincidence? I think.
What made roasting Adam Schiff so effortless, at least in Greg Gutfeld's eyes, was the fact that Schiff never seemed to realize he was the punchline. He drifted through DC like a glitchy AI stuck on Cold War reruns and recycled CNN soundbites, always intense, rarely self-aware. With the demeanor of a man who hasn't cracked a genuine smile since 1987, Schiff spoke like he'd spent hours rehearsing in the mirror, only for his lines to hit with all the impact of a soggy dishcloth. And Gutfeld, he was absolutely reveling in it. To him, Schiff wasn't just a political figure. He was a one-man blooper reel leaking intel, credibility, and logic in equal measure.
On impeachment while the coronavirus was exploding. We talked about that virus in green rooms, but we had to do this impeachment story. We had to show these hearings. It's all on him, man. He's got to go. They got to investigate him. They got to hold him accountable. I'm not going to say he should go to prison, but my evil twin will say he should go away to prison for a very long time.
Gutfeld kicked things off by zeroing in on the eyes. Those wide, perpetually startled eyes that seemed locked in breaking news mode 24/7. According to Greg, Adam Schiff's default expression was somewhere between mild panic and full-blown existential dread, like a guy who just remembered he left the oven on during a classified intel briefing. Every time Schiff approached a microphone, Gutfeld joked, it felt like watching a meerkat try to deliver the State of the Union, frantic posture, darting glances, and an urgency so intense, you'd think aliens just landed. But no one could quite tell what the emergency was. The drama was real, but the purpose? Still a mystery.
Schiff, how are you?
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Gutfeld.
So, Congressman, I got to ask, how did it feel to have your ass chewed out like that in front of your colleagues?
Oh, well, I will say this, Mr. Gutfeld, it feels...
And then there was the voice, that slow, flatlined monotone that made every sentence feel like it was crawling toward doom, one dramatic pause at a time. Gutfeld didn't hold back, joking that Schiff had the uncanny ability to make a parking ticket sound like DFC on and one. His speeches weren't stirring, they were sleep-inducing. Less call to action, more ambient noise for a nap. Gutfeld quipped that Schiff could be warning us about an asteroid barreling toward Earth, and somehow, you'd still be on your phone, waiting for the part where things actually got exciting. Urgency without impact, a true political paradox.
And the fact that Schiff hasn't blinked since 1992. And he didn't take the news so well. The disgraced Democrat went on TikTok to complain. Behold.
Hello, I'm Congressman Adam Schiff with some troubling news. Today, Kevin McCarthy removed me from the House Intelligence Committee, all for doing my job, for holding Trump accountable and standing up to the extreme MAGA Republicans.
What really set Greg Gutfeld off? What genuinely fueled his relentless takedown? Was it just Adam Schiff's politics? It was the delusion. Schiff didn't merely think he was right. He seemed convinced he was the last righteous man standing in a den of liars. He strutted through Capitol Hill like some lone prophet with a clearance badge, whispering truth to power. Never mind that he leaped like a cracked sippy cup on a hot day. Gutfeld called it exactly what it was, performance art. High drama, low substance. Part preacher, part actor, always arriving just in time for a convenient soundbite or a perfectly timed press hit. He went after Schiff's greatest theatrical releases, starting with the drawn-out saga of the Russia investigation. According to Greg, every time Schiff claimed he had concrete evidence of collusion, it felt like watching a boardwalk magician insisting he could levitate, if the crowd would just give him 5 more minutes. Schiff pitched bombshells with the excitement of a carnival barker, all smoke and suspense. But when the curtain dropped, there were no fireworks. Just savvy sparklers, a broken megaphone, and the faint sound of credibility limping offstage. And yet, Schiff never retracted. Never apologized, never even blinked. Gutfeld joked he was like a guy who lost everything at the poker table, but kept bluffing with a reverse you-know card. There were no pivots, only deeper digs. Each failed prophecy was followed by a new, even graver warning. Each story billed as urgent, but always curiously unfinished.
So Adam Schiff now admits he should have been much more clear about how he unleashed the impeachment circus. Note, when a politician says they should be much more clear, they mean, I wish you hadn't caught me lying to your face.
I should have been much more clear, and I said so the minute it was brought to my attention, that I was referring to the fact that when the whistleblower filed the complaint, we had not heard from the whistleblower. We wanted to bring the whistleblower in at that time, but I should have been much more clear about that.
You know, instead of trying to be clear, it might just save time if you just...
And Greg couldn't ignore the smugness, that unmistakable air of superiority that clung to Schiff like a designer cologne labeled sanctimony. He didn't speak to people, he spoke at them, like a substitute teacher convinced his PowerPoint on civics would single-handedly save democracy. Gutfeld quipped that Schiff had all the charm of a DMV touchscreen, and the emotional warmth of a surprise audit from the IRS. Not only was he humorless, he seemed philosophically opposed to laughter. Sarcasm, irony, even the slightest jab. They bounced off him like eggs on a well-oiled Teflon ego. Then came the hearings, Schiff's personal stage, his off-Broadway debut, where fantasy met fiction and facts were just optional props. Gutfeld described them as melodramatic showcases, where Schiff acted more like a director than a chairman, fixated on camera angles, mic placements, and his own screen time. He shuffled facts like cue cards, cut off witnesses like he was gunning for an Emmy, and treated every objection like a plot twist in a courtroom thriller. If Schiff ever hosted a game show, Greg joked, the answer would always be Russia and the grand prize. A stack of subpoenas and a cable news segment. And the media. They ate it up. They portrayed Schiff as part James Bond, part Gandalf, cloak of secrecy, voice of doom. Every time he opened his mouth, headlines fell into formation like loyal ducklings, echoing the same dramatic warnings in bold, urgent fonts. Gutfeld dubbed it the Schiff echo chamber. where reality took a back seat to atmosphere.
Republicans took over, but it's far worse than we expected.
Cue the violins, people. But can he promise you this?
But I can promise you this is not the end of my fight for our democracy. This is just the beginning. Please join us and contribute today. Thank you.
Here's my question. How much will it cost for you not to run?
Greg Gutfeld couldn't help but dive into Adam Schiff's complicated relationship with the truth, or more accurately, his ongoing flirtation with it. He dubbed Schiff the undisputed king of the almost factual, the sultan of soon-to-be verified, the maestro of not quite credible statements. According to Gutfeld, Schiff didn't so much lie as he provided long-term shelter to lies. Like errant guests that checked in, trashed the place, and never quite left. And when those narratives eventually unraveled or were flat-out debunked, Schiff didn't flinch. He simply reset the stage with another grave soliloquy about democracy teetering on the brink, delivered with all the sincerity of an actor reading a teleprompter during a disaster movie. Gutfeld tore into the irony. The man constantly warning the world about disinformation was also handing it out like Halloween candy. He portrayed Schiff as the guy screaming about scam artists while discreetly selling knockoff Rolexes from beneath the trench coat. A man who spoke of transparency but operated more like a stage magician, plumes of fog, sleight of hand, and plenty of patriotic flair. Then, of course, came the book deals. Gutfeld couldn't resist that one. Schiff penned his memoirs as if he just returned from a covered op deep behind enemy lines, not a 3-year residency on CNN. Gutfeld joked the title should have been How I Saved Democracy Without Breaking a Sweat. He called it fan fiction with footnotes. A self-congratulatory political thriller where the hero never errs and every villain conveniently wears a red tie.
Transparency, all the while saying the whistleblower might not testify because it's a safety concern, he maintains, because we all know CIA agents can't protect themselves against non-existent threats, or that our government can't protect him from your Aunt Sally.
Our primary interest right now is making sure that that person is protected. Indeed, now there's more than one whistleblower that they are protected. And given that we already have the call record, we don't need the whistleblower who wasn't on the call to tell us what took place during the call. We have the best evidence.
Greg even took aim at Schiff's fashion sense. Because let's be honest, when Gutfeld goes in, no detail is spared. The suits. Gutfeld joked they looked like they were pulled from a clearance rack labeled Nervous Accountants, Final Sale. The ties had all the flair of a high school debate team's third-place finisher, earnest, overconfident, and just slightly off. Schiff didn't just seem out of place, he looked like he'd been shrink-wrapped and delivered straight from the Bureau of Redundancy Bureau. Then there was his knack for camouflage. Gutfeld quipped that Schiff dressed like a man trying to quietly blend in with the curtains at a town hall meeting, hoping no one asked him a follow-up question. And the face. Oh, Gutfeld had a field day there. Schiff's expression, according to Greg, lived in a state of permanent confusion. Like a startled owl who just wandered into a courtroom. No matter the topic, war, taxes, a slice of birthday cake, he always looked like someone had just shown him a live ferret. His default emotion was a cocktail of mild panic with a generous splash of sanctimony. But what really intrigued Gutfeld wasn't just the odd style or frozen expressions, it was the stamina. Despite a trail of botched predictions, theatrical warnings, and exaggerated narratives, Schiff never slowed down. If anything, he cranked up the drama, penning op-eds about saving democracy, giving solemn speeches about protecting sacred institutions, all while never once acknowledging he might have bent the truth, missed the mark, or chased a ghost with a press pass.
On the planet, and I guess he makes it work, Tyrus. But
Does he?
But isn't it? I mean, I don't want to get mad about this because he's such a joke. But the fact that he isn't going to be really get any punishment.
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Gray called it the Schiff cycle. A never-ending loop of accusation, escalation, disappearance, and repeat. Like a political weather app that only predicts storms, no matter the forecast. It wasn't about facts or even outcomes. Schiff didn't need to be right. He just needed to be loud, ominous, and delivered in a tone that suggested democracy was dangling by a single fraying thread. To Gutfeld, Schiff had evolved, or devolved, from politician to full-time doomsday narrator. Less lawmaker, more late-night radio host warning of invisible enemies and constitutional collapse, even when he helped build the storm clouds himself. Gutfeld's roast crescendoed with a surreal image, Schiff, alone on a dimly lit stage, dramatically reading declassified memos to a silent, confused audience, each page turned treated like a revelation, as if flipping a file was an act of national salvation. The spotlight, the solemnity, the self-importance, it all played like a one-man show no one asked to attend. To Greg, Schiff wasn't just a flawed public servant. He was a delusional performer, locked in an audition for a role no one wrote, reading lines from a script the country stopped watching 2 acts ago. And the punchline. Schiff genuinely believed he was the moral compass of Congress, the last line of defense against tyranny. Meanwhile, Gutfeld just stood back, grinning, mic in hand, watching the drama unfold like a live-action satire, missing only a laugh track and a commercial break.
Not even Mitt Romney could help him. Everyone knew there weren't enough votes to convict. Even the media, their only way out of this hell, pretending that Mitt was a hero. Poor Adam. He really thought he had him. Well, we've talked about who won the impeachment trial. Now let's talk about who didn't. As I've said before, don't think the Dems aren't going to stop trying to find dirt on Trump. They'll look anywhere. Hell, they'll go to a local high school if they thought they'd...
Greg knew the formula by heart. With every Schiff headline, every perfectly timed pause, every ominous leak disguised as a public service, the script practically wrote itself. The roast wasn't a one-time special. It was an ongoing series, and the next episode was already in post-production. Gutfeld wasn't about to let Adam Schiff quietly fade into the political background without one more round of verbal fireworks. Because just when you thought Schiff had finally run out of apocalyptic metaphors and dire predictions, he'd pop up with another breathless press conference, another headline dripping in drama, another installment of America is in danger, because I say so. Greg dove into Schiff's flair for theatrics like a kid tearing into birthday presents. According to him, Schiff didn't practice politics, he performed it. Every issue, no matter how mundane, was framed as a 5-alarm fire. Every policy discussion came wrapped in the energy of a national crisis. If a zoning dispute landed on Schiff's desk, you'd swear the Constitution itself was under siege. The fire alarm never stopped, not because the flames were real, but because Schiff kept pulling the lever, while flashing a knowing smile at the nearest camera. And then there was the delivery. Gutfeld swore Schiff didn't speak like a public servant. He narrated like he was voicing a Ken Burns documentary about himself. It wasn't communication, it was self-mythology. Greg joked that Schiff probably hired a personal voiceover guy just to make his coffee orders sound like a founding document. The man's ego wasn't just inflated, it had its own zip code, possibly its own area code. Then came Schiff's latest act, The Victim. After years of dominating cable news like a greatest hits DJ spinning conspiracy remixes, Schiff now claimed he was being unfairly targeted, punished, even, for telling the truth. Gutfeld couldn't help but laugh. The idea that a man who spent years crafting headlines out of shadows was suddenly shocked to find himself under scrutiny? That was rich, even by Washington standards. Victimhood, Greg said, was Schiff's latest costume. And like all his performances, it came complete with a fresh batch of pearl-clutching talking points and dramatic pauses. Schiff hadn't been silenced. He'd simply been fact-checked. And in Gutfeld's world, there's a canyon of difference between censorship and accountability. Greg compared Schiff's endless warnings of doom to someone shouting "shark" at a community pool party. After the 5th false alarm, and no dorsal fins in sight, people stop panicking. They start sighing, grabbing their towels, and heading for the snack bar. But not Schiff. He kept going, eyes wide, voice trembling, convinced that this time, his memo-reading marathon would finally jolt the nation awake. Gutfeld said Schiff wasn't just out of touch, he was out of material. The theatrics have faded. The solemn expressions no longer evoked concern, just collective eye rolls. The man who once fashioned himself as democracy's final defender now resembled a guy muttering Cold War monologues at an open mic night, hoping someone would hand him the spotlight and beg for an encore. But Greg wasn't fooled. He knew Schiff would be back. He always was. With another leak, another breathless press hit, another speech warning of invisible threats. And when that moment came, Gutfeld would be right there, smirking, mic in hand, 2 punchlines ahead and already rehearsing the roast.